Hello, everyone. Thanks for checking in today. I'm here with Julie through Zoom. Thanks, Zoom. And I don't profess to be uh, technically proficient at this software, nor the uploading of a recording to YouTube. So hopefully we're doing everything right. Julie and I are here today because Julie had posted a question a little late to my latest YouTube video, but still one I saw, where she expressed interest about the spiritual experience on trail more generally, as well as mine specifically. And that was intriguing enough to me to be like, hey, through email, let's talk in person about it because it'll be fun to make a new friend and maybe it'll be interesting. So here we are. Um,
Yay!
Julie is taking the position of interviewing me, even though I asked her to be here, which is a little peculiar, maybe. But we're going to do the best we can. We've got some
Mhm.
questions, and yeah. Um, Julie, you want to say anything and just to greet the people?
Sure, yeah. Hey, everybody. My name is Julie Jordan Scott. It's great to be here. Just so you can know me a little bit, I know that you know Andrew a lot, probably. I am a woman living in Northwest New Jersey, about 10 minutes from the trail and the Appalachian Trail in two different places, both in New York and New Jersey. I'm very thrilled about that. Um, have not hiked much in my life, but I started hiking the AT when I was a little tiny girl with my dad. And so when I moved back into this area a couple of years ago, I was very drawn to the trail. And because of that, I started to watch AT through hiker videos, which is how I came upon Andrew this year. I find them fascinating to watch. And the through hikers and the section hiker videos helped me to get to know my parts of the trail better, which was the original reason I started watching them, so I could get to know the trail around me better without actually going out there. I learned a lot of ins and outs about the trail just from watching videos.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you felt the confidence to comment on my YouTube videos. I always felt like I understood maybe what you were saying. And the way you use language, we've talked a little bit before I hit the record button, felt like a kindred soul. So I felt pretty
Mm-hmm.
confident reaching out.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, it's fun. I'm thankful to everyone who takes the risk of commenting. And yeah, like I never know maybe what someone intends, but at the same time, it's hard to speak through that that text message on a YouTube video. Anyway, as we begin, I thought it would be important to share a little bit about myself to express uh, who I am, kind of in a general adjective sense, and help locate my experience so that it can be contextualized. The things I say can be contextualized. So I'm going to use some big words. I'll try to explain them, assuming that they might not be super familiar to people. And this is, yeah, like maybe some advanced terminology, but here we go. So I am a cisgendered, which means I feel very comfortable in the body that society expects of someone who looks like I do. So I'm a cisgendered male, I feel very confident in that male identity. I'm also heterosexual, so I like girls. Generally, I'm not drawn to guys in regards to my relational and sexual preferences. I'm white. I'm a male. I'm in my late 20s, and my hiking has all occurred during my 20s. That's a pretty important aspect of my experience. I'm unmarried. I'm generally pretty well educated with religious education through the master's level. So I have an undergraduate degree and a master's degree. I'm a United States citizen. I only speak English, and I grew up Protestant Christian and had a religious education since the fourth grade. And I'm a 9,000 plus mile through hiker and a triple crowner now, which is very cool to say. But all of the things I say come through the lens of someone who's had the exact experience that I have. And there are strengths and weaknesses to that. And I'm here for them. So that's me.
Wonderful. I so appreciate hearing all that and getting to know that about you too, Andrew.
Yeah.
If that has any meaning for you. And just so people can know, I'll
Thanks.
just briefly say that I am also cisgender female. As I said, I live in Northwest New Jersey. I was raised primarily in California from the time I was a teenager through my adulthood. I lived in Central California, Grapes of Wrath land, and now I live someplace quite different. I raised three children who are now adults, and they each are unique and fantastic, and I'm incredibly grateful for being a mom. I have not had a conventional career path during my life. I had a couple different professions before I stepped out to be an activist, an advocate, also a creative. I'm an actor, director, writer, poet performer. So I have lots of varied interests, and I'm so grateful that I have chosen an unconventional path in my life. And I'm an American citizen, and I only speak a little bit of Spanish. I've done a lot of work with refugees and immigrants, though, so that really helps me to want to learn more languages. So there you
Yeah,
have it.
the want and then the uh, energy to do so are two very different things in my life, certainly.
Yeah. My Spanish is improving because I speak it almost every day these days, so that's really good.
Good on
Yeah.
you. So today we're going to talk about spiritual experience and through hiking through the lens of particularly my experience, but more than excited for you to share tidbits from your own life as well. So I just wanted to describe what my through hiking experience has been. I have done outdoor activity through well-traveled and like well-constructed continuous footpaths along the United States. I've I was a Triple Crown quitter before I was ever a Triple Crowner. So I attempted and quit the PCT in 2019, the CDT in 21, the AT in 2019. Then I came back, or the CDT in 2022, and then I came back to finish the PCT in 2021, the CDT in 2023, and the AT in 2024. I attempted the Oregon Coast Trail in 2021 and I finished it in 2022. And every single time I've started from the beginning and gone all the way through. So my experience is unique, maybe in that sense, but that's how the numbers have added up to 9,000 plus, which is really exciting to think about. Gives me lots of motivation to go for 10,000.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's definitely something to say about through hiking as an American citizen. Like I've never traveled abroad and English is my language. And that's, meant that my experience has felt very comfortable in the United States. But when we talk about spirituality, we talk about, connection to ourselves and connection to other people. And the reality that I speak English certainly plays into that in the locales that I've traveled. And then I also thought it would be important to try to describe what it is when we use the word spirituality. So I did a quick Merriam-Webster search and Wikipedia search. On Merriam-Webster, spirituality relates, number one, of relating to or affecting the spirit, of relating to sacred matters, ecclesiastical rather than lay or temporal. And the fourth definition is concerned with religious values. And then Wikipedia says, referred to a religious process of reformation, which, quote, aims to recover the original shape of man or image of God. And all these definitions seem like they carry a lot of religious bias, certainly, but on, the Western computer that I use linked to a Western, I don't know the technical term, but like the Wi-Fi connection knows I'm in Maine, knows I'm in the US. They feel like very Christian terms. And the one I liked best maybe was the second one I saw on the Wikipedia paragraph I was reading, which just referred to the animating principle of life. And I think when I'm talking about spirituality, that is what I've come to understand best about my own experience of the spiritual, is how it tunes me into what's going on all around me and how I'm connected to that. So I think that's what I'm trying to get at today with our discussion.
Yeah. Excellent. That's so helpful that how you outline that for everybody.
Good.
An animating principle of life. It's in my notes now. So thank you for that. So are you ready for the questions?
I'm ready for the questions, yeah.
All right, here we go. The official interview is beginning. All right, so I would love to hear, what was your reason for choosing to hike the Appalachian Trail?
Yeah, so when I was graduating my undergrad in 2018, I had earned or was earning a undergraduate in religious studies from a Protestant university and was in a very prolonged interview process. And I had thought I'd interviewed very well, the conference, the kind of the church ecclesial structure that I had interviewed with, left me hanging for like 4.5 months, and I'm about to graduate, anxious about the financial realities, anxious about what to do next, and had plenty of time on my hands because I was coasting through the last semester of school. So I was watching a lot of YouTube. And one day, I remember I was in a hammock amidst the trees in a town over from college and had been watching it on my phone, I think, or like preloaded the video on my laptop. I don't know, but I watched a Mainer hike the AT, and it wasn't this sort of daily vlog style. It was like a 45-minute video that encapsulated the whole trip. And I was like, oh, I should do that. People have talked about that my whole life. Like, that looks pretty fun. And there were like a ton of people who quit in that person's tramway. And I was like, I'm better than the rest. I can do it. Little did I know I'd be a Triple Crown quitter. But yeah, I got, interested and thought I'll hike the AT. That's what I'll do this summer. And then some time passed and, life progressed. I ended up signing up for a summer job instead. And then I came across John Zahorian's, these are kind of like ancient YouTube videos now, I think, but I just like fell in love with what I thought trail was through the lens of a John Z video. And that's not what trail's like at all. But that cool music and those big vistas, I was like, oh, I need to hike all of the trails. The AT doesn't look half as cool as the PCT does. So I think in my mind, I had this disillusion with the hiring process that I was experiencing, and this newfound avenue of like, oh, I can do things that really amaze me. I should go try to do those things. And yeah, that's maybe a direct answer to that question. But I got really excited about trail.
That's great. Yeah, and one of the things I was thinking before we talked today is that I actually, because I was living in Bakersfield for so many years, I have stepped on the PTC as close as I was to Bakersfield. I kept looking for it, and I jumped on it one day to say that I had been on it. So.
Yeah. Would that have been just east of Tehachapi?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I
Yeah,
was.
cool.
I've jumped on it a couple places along that stretch. So
Yeah.
one of these days I'll do more. So did the choice to through hike, well, actually, you already kind of answered this about the connection of through hiking and spirituality. Is there anything else you'd like to say about that? Did the choice to through hike have any connection to your spirituality beyond the interview process and waiting for that to happen?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit more specifically. When I graduated undergrad, um, my spiritual or my religious framework, my spiritual framework as well, had really changed a lot. I grew up very uh, like convicted, and I was a real Christian believer. That was just like the ocean in which I swam,
Mm-hmm.
or the little pond maybe in which I was swimming. But little pond is not meant to be derogatory. Just the religious community I was in was small and tight knit. But when I went to college, it was a really good timing for me to go to the specific university I did because I found uh, a new language that was um, more ready to hold the kind of questions and concerns that my growing person was concerned about and was holding. And as it pertains to through hiking and the interview process, I remember I had gone through a number of interviews, like 6 or 7, and there were some where I was very honest about the changes that had occurred in my life. Like I remember in one interview saying, like, I'm not sure Jesus is coming back. Like we've said Jesus is coming back really soon for a long time, and I really hope so, but I'm just not convinced. And that ended that interview. And then there were other interviews where I would hold that in, or I would even lie, right? And then they'd be like, "You're the best thing since sliced bread, young man. Like we'd love to have you." And so, when we talk about spirituality and the way we connect to ourselves and the people around us, and just kind of like the integrity that we choose to hold with life, I was like, "Oh wow!" Like for me to get a job, I'm kind of lying to people. And that's probably like, especially for something like fasting, that's probably a really big red flag. So I was kind of fed up with it. One interview, which came much later, I continued to flirt with interviews when I could get them for the next like 2 or 3 years. Uh, one pastor said, "You're the kind of person we're trying to save." And my response was like, dude, I know your target audience. I'm perfect. I'm relatable. And they didn't buy that very much. I do actually agree with that statement still. I think there's some serious advantages to someone like me in a position like that. But anyway, so through hiking was like, it became obvious that it was the next step, even though it didn't make sense for the sort of societal expectations that I felt were placed upon me. And I've
Mm-hmm.
dealt with that anxiety and that shame the whole time that I've through hiked
Mm-hmm.
and still do, having a non-traditional path like yours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It definitely makes people look at us differently. Definitely. So, all right. How would you define spirituality as it is connected to your life on trail and off trail?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think um, most of my through hiking experience has been done alone. Like there are people around, or maybe there aren't people around, but more or less I'm hiking by myself or with like relation to one or two other people who I see intermittently, or maybe just through like internet connection. And so um, when I think about the times in my life when I hiked with people out of those 9,000 miles, 700 miles in the desert, 500 miles with a partner in Oregon, um, two, no, 400 miles in New Mexico. That's it. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I've had friends, right? But like I've just done my own thing. So when you ask the question, like, how does spirituality, at least the way I'm hearing the question, how does spirituality uniquely interact with being on trail or being off trail? I
Yeah.
think when I'm on trail, uh, I'm alone instead of connected with other people in a sort of like active, continuous way. And that changes the disposition I hold because I found it's really hard to escape yourself when you're on trail and there's no one to talk to, which for me has been a real blessing because it's meant I've gotten to know myself better. But it's meant that um, I can't really get away from what's going on inside of me. I think sometimes that's bled into the way I show up on like a AT YouTube video or something like that. I'm not always having such a bad time, but like there's been nothing to talk about with anyone except for myself, and I'm finally like fed up about something, so I pulled a dumb camera out. The rest of the time, maybe I'm doing okay, like I laugh about something, or I fart, or I like dip my feet in the stream. Like life's just happening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but maybe trail is sort of like a recharge space, or maybe it's like a testing my own boundaries space, as opposed to off trail where there's a lot more focus on other people's experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's just my experience. But
Yeah. 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 It makes a lot of sense. So, how has long distance hiking changed your perspective on spirituality?
yeah, um, oh, I feel like when I read these questions before, I had something specific to say to this one. I can't remember it anymore.
That's all right.
I think it's helped me come to know myself better. And um, like when I was on the CDT, I was really, really angry, and I'm not impressed with that person. I feel still to this day, I feel like I had reasons to be angry, but the person I was didn't have the tools or skills, and might not the next time either. I'm that angry,
Mm-hmm.
but like I certainly didn't have the skills or tools to manage that very well. And trail was the space where I could like whack a tree with my trekking pole. So trail is, yeah, like whack a tree with my trekking pole, like yelling obscenities into the sky, and then 2 minutes later be sobbing on the side of the trail, like, holy crap, I'm out of control and
Mm-hmm.
I'm really, really hurt. Like this is pretty serious for me. And so I don't always carry that same like freedom to express in the social world, but trail has I think maybe changed my experience of spirituality just because I realized like, oh, there's a huge capacity in every single person to just like go kind of crazy, or like really like all caps bold italicized underlined font Like that's the internal monologue for like 109 days on the CDT. That's what it is. Um, and then it doesn't have to be that anymore on the AT. Maybe you get that 1 or 2 days or for 20 minutes every week or something like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think trails has changed my capacity to respect and understand other people's like very intensive self-expression.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know for myself, coming from that Reformed Protestant background,
Hmm.
we didn't express ourselves,
Yeah.
still don't express ourselves very much, especially emotionally. So it feels like that would be quite transformative to be able to do that with, and nobody can see you doing that. You know,
Yeah.
there's not an audience.
So
So,
I don't have a reformed background. My
mm,
father's my Oma and Opa, my father's side is Dutch and they came over after World War II. So
yeah, yeah,
just kind of like that cultural reformed Christianity
yeah.
and or Calvinism. So yeah,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
I didn't see my I don't often see my dad cry, and when I do, it's like very impactful. And then
Hmm.
so I got that little bit of like reformed uptightness, but then I got another like puritanical uptightness from my Seventh Day Adventism and my New England upbringing. Like I don't know how to dance. I never want to dance. That's like dancing makes babies, man. Stay away from that. Like that's what I was told as a kid. So yeah, it was impactful for me as well to like to realize I didn't have to, at least when I was alone, when I didn't have to worry about other people watching, I didn't have to abide by that
Hmm.
cultural
Hmm.
norm anymore.
Yeah, yeah. That's. I really enjoy that answer.
Yeah.
So, and again, some of this we've touched on. So if you feel like your answer is redundant, you don't need to answer all these questions. But has your spiritual life or experience of the spiritual evolved since you started on the AT or any of your through hiking?
Yeah. So this um, brings up another aspect of my experience through hiking. Uh, from the very beginning, I had this vision of triple crowning, and I'm so glad I did. And I want to do it all again. Man, like if somebody wants to pay me to counter your triple crown, dude, I'll do it for like $45,000. Like that's enough. Yeah, I do it in a heartbeat. I make videos every day, man. And then I'll complain about it while like on the videos I'll complain about it the whole time because it's freaking hard. It's really uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm so thankful I did because I've seen a lot of the United States and I've seen a lot of different areas of the United States. And frankly, the car is the bane of United States culture. And if we would just bike or walk, we'd all treat each other better and have just our minds opened. But
Yeah.
because I had this vision of the Triple Crown, I felt stressed to accomplish it. But I also have very high standards for myself and look forward to like making an impact on the world through. I think I've always thought of that happening through a career. So I've tried to manage the anxiety of really wanting to make a difference as a pastor and getting bunted out of that because I was true to myself. Like, okay, that hurts. Also, what do I do now? Also, what do I tell the auntie and uncle at church or not at church? But I want to through hike, but people aren't going to respect this kid who has the financial capacity to go on 6 month vacations every year. Like, um, so just all of that would weigh on me the whole time. And I was able to go to school through COVID, moved back home with mom and dad, had an 80% scholarship to go to grad school, which made it something I could pay for. And so I had something to do with myself, but I was like, I got to do a trail every single summer so that once I graduate, I'm done with this and I'm in the workforce and I don't have to feel self-conscious about Fox News telling me I'm a like blood-sucking millennial or something like that. Like that's a little harsh, but I get it. And I don't want to do that, right? Like I want to participate. I'm trying. So so on the AT, I was triple crowning. I was like, oh, there's not a next one that I feel like I have to do. There's just stuff that I really want to do. And maybe I'll go do it. But maybe also I don't have to worry quite as much about uh, the expectations I've set for myself already. And so that's been exciting to think that I can set a new goal. And that's
Hmm.
made myself really a lot more easy to live with sometimes in those anxious moments. I don't know if that's like growth or not, but that's just um, what's been going on with the last of the Triple Crowns as opposed to some of the earlier hikes. Yeah,
Yeah, it
so
sounds like
that's a development in my spirituality.
yeah. I think the pressure being off would make a big difference. It sounds like that's what happened to some extent anyway.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like I no longer have to deal with, well, I don't as often have to deal with some of those anxieties that I would carry. And
Hmm.
so there's all this new, or there's all this untapped energy now that's like, oh, well, how do I apply it to a new goal without falling into the same sort of like self-condemnation cycle that participated in the last goal setting?
Hmm. Hmm.
And how do I, provide financially for the next steps in my life? How do I remain grateful for the advantages that I've been given, as well as remain responsible in using those advantages? Like, there's just a new space for new choices, and hopefully, I do a better job than I did before in like being compassionate to myself and still working for the good of the world and myself and others.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. So I don't have any answers. That's just what's going on.
Well, hey, one of my favorite spiritual people, Rainer Rilke, said, "Don't look for the answers anyway. Live the question." Feels like that's what you've been doing, living the question.
Maybe, maybe.
Anyway, so what role did the natural beauty of the Appalachian Trail play in your experience? And were there any
Yeah,
sections of the trail that were particularly impactful spiritually?
yeah. Um, the most impactful sections of the trail were definitely the ones that were coldest, I think. I really liked being out there in the early winter, and I really liked uh, the fact that it would be freezing cold and would be like dark for like 13 hours. I think when
Mhm.
I got on the Appalachian Trail, I realized that it wasn't the hike that I had envisioned the culmination of my Triple Crown would be, and it really proved not to be that. Like up to the very end, I was like, "This sucks," but um, but I got on the trail having failed at another, 4 or 5 month period of trying to find the next thing that wasn't through hiking.
Mhm.
And when I'd always imagined a Appalachian through hike, I thought I'd get on in like July or even like August and then just
Mm.
blitz like a 70, 80 day through hike to like October glory in Maine. Like that's the ideal still in my mind of what I think I would enjoy as an Appalachian through hike. And so getting on in January was like, what is this? Like, this is the exact opposite. But I was so disappointed in so many things, and the CDT experience had been so like charged in so many different ways that I was really thankful. Just like, oh, I can like sleep for 14 hours, and I might only get 18 miles today, and that's totally fine because it's like 4:30 and it's 15 degrees out. I'm gonna get in my sleeping bag now. So, um, the most impactful spaces were like falling asleep at 6, watching the sunset, and waking up at 7:30 the next day, having like crawled out of my 0 degree mummy bag at 2 to like urinate and then watch the stars for like 35 minutes before I fell back asleep. That was the
Mm.
best. There was a
Mhm.
day in the Shenandoahs where I beat the rainstorm to the shelter, and then it started raining 30 minutes after I got there. And there was like an owl hooting the next morning, and there were
Mm.
deer the evening before. And I just like watched the rain pour for like 16 or 17 hours. That was like just like this nebulous space between sleep and being awake. And it like didn't make any difference because I was like, oh, dude, I'm like, I have like melded with the universe. So those are probably the best memories. There was another day where I had to wait out a 36-hour rainstorm. That one got a little like boring, but the 16 to 17-hour one was just right.
Oh
Um,
man.
yeah, it was really frustrating to get back on after the time I took off because it was a very spring and it was like there were some muggy times there in Vermont especially. And so I was like, this is not what it was. And this is the worst time in New England to be outside. It's mud season and mosquito season and bug season. And like, can I enjoy it? Yeah, I can. But there's just a lot more constant aggravation than there was before. And um, that's kind of frustrating. So
Mhm.
Yeah,
Was it more crowded too? I was thinking about that when you got back on.
it was, but not very crowded at all for
Okay.
AT standards. No, it was quite
Okay.
calm actually.
Okay.
Hey,
I was just like,
I just got the free Zoom 10-minute timer limit. Time's flying by.
it is flying, and we've gone through
4 or 5.
five questions. Five questions. Okay.
Well,
So how do you want to handle this? Do you want me to go to the end?
just I think maybe the last one was interesting,
Okay.
but
Sure. Sure.
just parse whatever you want to talk about. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay. I don't
We
want to
can.
miss anything that you might have really wanted to talk about. Oh, but I do want to know. I have to ask the question.
Uh-huh.
I noticed that there were times when you longed for your bicycle on trail.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
would
it's
like
a
to
good one.
speak about the differences between bicycling and hiking. Anything
So
about bicycling and the
I think
longing.
yeah, I think the bicycle is like the salvation of the United States. I'm a I'm a what's the word? I can't think of it. I'm crazy. I'm like the idealist or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the bicycles changed my life. It was a way to stay active after I lost connection to sports, moving to or going back to Maine. There's like not enough people to play a lot of the time. So the bicycle was a way that didn't hurt my body, that I could get out, feel the wind in my face, ride. And so when I'm on trail and my hips hurt and my knees hurt and my ankles swollen or twisted again or something like that, the bike just seems like this effortless speed and I'm going to be out here for anywhere from like 45 minutes to 3.5 hours. And I'm going to go home and take a shower and lay on the couch and eat pasta. That's the vision in my mind. And when I'm on the bike, I'm a very social bike rider, not with other cyclists because I often ride alone, but like I'm constantly trying to interact with the cars around because I'm trying to show them that my experience is way better than their iron coffin. And also I'm manipulating the cars to for my own benefit. So like if there's a line of like 7 people behind me and the first one goes by, I will wave to them and then every car after will give me the most gracious pass ever because my perception is they're all trying to earn that same positive affirmation from me. And I've tested like if I give up waving on the fourth, the fifth, sixth, and seventh passes just are not as comfortable. So yeah, I don't know, when I'm on the bike, like I'm smiling because I'm like, haha, made you give me 3 feet more space or something. It's just like a lighter space for me.
It's
Um,
like I love that. Love that.
I've done a little bit of bicycle touring. I've ridden from Riverside or Los Angeles to Portland, Oregon, and I've ridden the Maine coast. And trust me, hour 7 or 8 on the bike, like I can be a little grumpy, just like I can on trail too. Because, but that's what I think about when I'm like, I miss the bike. It's that kind of the world that I'm missing. Yeah,
That explains it because I was really curious when I would see you talking about the bike because you could feel it in your videos. I could feel
yeah,
that
the
longing
bike
for
is great.
bicycle.
I rode my bike today. There's a bike handle right there.
There you go. Okay, and finally, I would love to for you to address this briefly because we don't have much time left. But do you have
Six
any
minutes.
guidance? Yeah. Do you have any guidance for people specifically seeking spiritual growth through the experience of through hiking?
Yeah, I would say that everyone is individual. And so, it's for the listener to decide what from my experience feels validating or true or impactful or applicable to their own life. But um, the humble recommendations I would give is probably first of all to be really honest about why you're there and like doesn't have to be a good reason. Like it doesn't have to be a righteous reason. It can be a pretty like selfish or like despicable reason. You're out there. Might as well be honest with what's going on inside. And then I would encourage people to spend time alone if they can. Um, from my experience, that's been very impactful. And I think it can be hard to find because trail is really, really intimidating and scary and hard and uncomfortable. And there's a lot of comfort in security in numbers and relationship and friendship. And I know from watching other videos that a lot of people have often said, like, yeah, I never camped alone on the AT. like if this video is largely going to be heard by people who are interested in the AT or would like to hike the AT, like, oh man, try to camp alone at least once. Like, just go half a mile further than your friends or stop a quarter mile before. Like, uh, you can set up plans to meet up with them the next day so that you're all going to be in town together. You're not going to lose them. But there's something really, really special about getting stuck with yourself. And on trail, that's made the difference for me, I think. Um, because it's really hard to be stuck with yourself. And sometimes you don't have enough phone battery or charger to like, keep attempting to find cell service. And so you really can't run away into the distraction you might find on the phone or um, so I think that's pretty good. That would be my recommendation. And I guess the reason why I recommend that is because if people are stuck with themselves, then whatever is really going on with them will rise, hopefully through time, to the fore of their experience. And then that's where my recommendation finds value for people. It's like in
Mm-hmm.
helping them to connect with what's really going on with themselves. So that's
Mm-hmm.
the important part of what I'm trying to say. It's like whatever's going on with you, do that. Yeah. But
Yeah, and
maybe
that,
being alone is a good way to find that.
yeah, yeah. I appreciate that too, because there are so many people with their tramolies that they get. It seems like they're, even though they're in a quiet place doing a quiet type thing, at least from my perspective, it seems like there'd be a lot of quiet contemplation, introspection. But if you're always huddled up with other people, I feel like you miss out on some of the, for me, would feel like gold of the
Yeah,
experience.
and I've heard some people say like, I spend a lot of the day hiking alone. I just catch up with my friends at night. Like, no, 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 that's wonderful, but like, but really try to find whatever it is that stretches you to be alone or to be independent in that space. That's the boundary you should push to find the place that confronts you with yourself that then hopefully brings up what's going on. Um, like maybe the biome that feels comfortable is not the time to test your boundary, but then you're in the desert on the PCT, and that's the scary part because you've never done desert before. That's the time to go like try to find uh that place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess my reaction to what you said is like, and maybe this is me just coming up with things that I wanted to say instead of listening well, but just like, now you have to keep pushing the aloneness until you're uncomfortable with it, because that's the place where you find the opportunity. It has to scare you at some level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's excellent. So
Yeah.
valid. Well, I really appreciate that.
We have 2 minutes left.
Okay.
Just in like 1 minute, can you just like, how are you doing, Julie? You've asked such good questions, and I'm just curious about what's going on with you.
No, I'm doing it. I'm having a great time. I'm just so interested in hearing about different experiences like this that are unique. And I'm always thinking how everybody hikes for different reasons, no matter what length of the hike. And everybody's out here living our lives in our own ways. And it feels really good in my heart to hear about your experience and your story. Because to me that's connecting with our stories, connecting to one another, really makes my life feel valid and valuable and important and significant. And if we can tell our stories to each other, I think it makes the world a better place, just like you were talking about, having an impact on the world. So I feel great. And
Well,
thank you so much for letting me ask these questions.
yeah, I'm so thankful that you took me up on the offer when I sent you an email. And I when I first received your response, I was like, oh, this lady's really professional. Like, she knows what she's doing. So I've just enjoyed the thoroughness with which you engaged me, and I felt like, oh wow, like this lady's, it's easy to do something with Julie. Like, we're just making it happen. That's awesome. And it helps me derive more value from the experience that I had as well. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just been
Oh,
really
great.
special.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been very reciprocal.
Yeah. And
Okay.
thanks to everyone who checked in to listen online. I hope this was not a waste of your 40 minutes, and look forward to what you might say in the comments. And I hope you cooked dinner while you were listening and now get to eat some yummy food. Okay, bye
Thank you so
everyone.
much. So long.
Okay, I'll cut the thing there. I'll log out because I think it's gonna just like,
Yeah,
but
it'll just cut us off. But did you hit end record? Did you end the recording?